What's up? We interrupt your regularly scheduled programming here on Locked On Sports Minnesota for an emergency J.J. McCarthy injury reaction. Again, I'm Sam Ekstrom, the executive producer here. That's Reggie Wilson. You see him on our Friday roundtables, our Minnesota basketball parties, and that's Ron Johnson, who does a little bit of everything, including hosting the Ron Johnson Show. But we got to take a moment today on a normal Minnesota basketball party day to talk football. And J.J. McCarthy, the news breaking yesterday that he has a torn meniscus going under the knife to determine how long he will miss this season. It could be a month. It could be multiple months. It could cost him the whole season. We just don't know yet until they get in there. But Reggie, this is big news. This is a guy that looked, other than an interception in the preseason debut, really looked spectacular. Had a bunch of people excited, on fire for this J.J. McCarthy kid, and now a huge setback in his development.
Yeah, and it was interesting being at Egan, and I know Ron was there too on Monday for the night practice. And I just remember us getting the news. I was on the air at the time, getting the news that JJ wouldn't practice that night because he came in complaining of some knee soreness. And I literally said it on the air at 6 o'clock doing sports. And I just remember the anchors back in the studio just going, oh. And then being out at the game, the night practice on Monday, and hearing fans, where's JJ? Where's JJ? And like the news like hadn't really hit them yet. And then you could tell, like, as time went on, they kind of understood and kind of got the news that JJ wouldn't be practicing, and there was a knee soreness with him, and you kind of start to feel like a little like ominous feeling, like there was an interesting feeling amongst the beat writers. Call it maybe just like Vikings quarterback PTSD, if you will.
Yes.
And they were just like, yeah, oh man, it's a little concerning. I don't know. And I'm just like, he said it was knee soreness. Like, and then like after hearing, everyone's like concerned, then I thought like maybe it might be a meniscus or something. Maybe because, you say knee soreness and you don't really think ACL. But there have been times like, my parents, both my mom and my father-in-law have had multiple meniscus injuries. And the last one that my mom had, she didn't even remember how it even happened. She woke up one morning, felt weird, went to the doctor and was just like, yeah, your meniscus is torn. She's like, what? How? Like, I didn't even do anything. Like, what's the deal? And it's so interesting because Kevin O'Connell explained it yesterday, him going, from the game, feeling fine, and then coming in on Monday with some knee soreness. Like, it wasn't anything that was a problem after the game, but I guess after things kind of slowed down, he's like, oh, something doesn't feel right in the knee. And so he goes and, Tyler Williams and the Viking staff check him out, and there's a tear. The tough thing is like just not knowing the severity is like all the Vikings fans are on pins and needles right now, just trying to understand like, oh, like, is it just going to be a few weeks? Is it going to be, and there's so many like medical doctors on Twitter right now, just trying to like get ahead of this thing. I guess maybe try to, manage expectations on what may happen. But here's the deal. It really like halts and slows considerable progress. Kevin O'Connell talked about how he had a plan and how this week JJ was going to start getting some more reps with the ones. And like there was a clear plan for him to ramp him up. And now there's a situation where now that whole thing just has to kind of be put on ice a little bit. And you hate that for a young quarterback who was, seemingly gaining more confidence. JJ talked about how after that interception, he was able to shake the nerves and just play free. And you saw that, against the twos, whatever you want to say, but there was still a lot of confidence in his play. And we just kind of wanted to see him continue that forward. And now we don't get that opportunity right away because we don't know what this injury is. And man, I was talking to Ron about this. If it is the trim, like that is the best case scenario for the short term. And maybe they get in there and see that maybe it only requires the trim. but that full repair, and you're talking about possibly him losing out on his rookie season, which would be a brutal blow to the Vikings.
And when you're 21, you might be more inclined to do the full repair because you are so young and your career's in front of you. And Ron, you kind of had the intuition about this, that it might be a meniscus, and it turns out it is. And now he gets under the knife, and we'll find out the severity, but it may not affect the 2024 Vikings at all, right? Because Sam Darnold might have started the whole year anyway. We just don't know what the future holds, but it does stunt all those practice reps, all the stuff behind the scenes that goes into a young player's development, and it just makes 2025 a little more uncertain.
Yeah, and so starting there, yeah, he's not going to get the reps early on, at least for at least 4 weeks. We know that 4 to 6 weeks, he's not going to get any reps. So that's the tough part. That was the part that was going to help him grow. That was the part that was going to make him better, was the mental reps at that moment. How can he get better? How can he start to learn from Sam Darnold? How can he learn how to play fast? How can he get in games? I literally had just said that too before that came out. Like when we were standing up top and in the facility, before I came downstairs and even Reggie brought it up, we were talking about like, man, it'd be nice if the Vikings could blow some teams out like the Giants, like if they can start out early, blow the Giants out, because they're probably going to be without Malik Neighbors. We know Daniel Jones isn't as good as people think he is for $40 million. Then JJ can get some of those reps, play fast, learn to see real game time, blah, blah. Even though, if the Giants are getting blown out, they probably don't have all their starters still out there, but that was the hope. And then Reggie, I walked on the sideline, Reggie brought it up, and right away, when he said, oh, yeah, he's not traveling with the team either, so I'm a little bit nervous, I was like, I bet it's a meniscus. I was like, it's probably a meniscus, because that's usually, like if it was an ACL or MCL or PCL or something serious, they would have probably talked about it sooner. But the fact that they called it what it was, which is soreness, I'm like, that's exactly what it is. It's definitely a meniscus, because I remember that same feeling. It doesn't feel like, because he didn't say it locked up, because that's one of the signs. They don't know how big of a piece of the meniscus is flapping, because that's usually like a little piece frayed off. But it can get bad and it can rip and tear into stuff. And so that's what they have to figure out, is how big of a piece is it? Is it a small enough piece where you can't even sew it? And that's what they're going to have to measure, the millimeter, because at millimeters, you can see it in an MRI, but you can't tell the exact millimeters until you actually get in. And so if it's a small enough millimeter where they're like, look, it's 1 millimeter, let's just cut it off. There's nothing we can do. We can't sew it back. If it's a big enough piece, then they're going to sew it back, and then it's a repair. And then they have to sew it back. They have to, put him in a brace, get him off his feet for a while to let the blood flow get back through so it can reattach and heal. If it's a part that doesn't get a lot of blood flow anyway, they'll probably say, let's just cut it off, because there's no blood flowing in this part of the meniscus anyway. So there's a lot to it till they can get in there and actually fully see it, get a grasp. But I do know, I was told he has to come up with a plan beforehand. Here's your options, A, B, and C. If A happens, what do you want us to do? If B happens, what do you want us to do? And if C happens, what do you want us to do? And that comes down to his team. That's why a lot of guys go to a second doctor. Nothing against the NFL and their teams and organizations, but we know doctors, some of these doctors actually, like they know their bread is butter because the team uses them. So they're going to err on the side of the team and do the surgery the team wants. A lot of guys go get a second opinion, and they go to their surgeon because they know their surgeon is going to take care of them, and they have no ties to the team. That's when you see that, when they're like, oh, I'm going to get a second opinion. That's because they don't really fully believe what they were told. They want to make sure they're getting the right information. As far as the return, I don't think he was going to play much anyway. That was the hope. Sam Darnold would be good. The last time a quarterback got hurt and a backup had to play with, this is not that situation, but they did have a hurt quarterback. Case Keenum. Case Keenum came in and led them to the NFC Championship. So maybe JJ getting hurt, they can win one for the Gipper. And he's going to be like Varsity Blues, and he'll be on the sideline like Lance, the quarterback that got hurt. Now you got the backup coming in, and the dude from Dawson's Creek. Like, maybe they can find some sense of like, we got to win this for JJ. But at the end of the day, honestly, we knew what this was about. This might actually give Sam Darnold another year, because if JJ McCarthy sits out the entire year, he didn't get a learn year. So then they have to say, well, like, we don't know what we have in this guy. Can we really just let Sam Darnold go? And that's where it kind of plays like Sam Darnold is playing for his future. If he has a year and kills it, I could see the Vikings bringing him back for one more year, or say, let's run it back again and let's let JJ learn. And just like Jordan Love, sit out for multiple years.
Yeah. I mean, guess who's waking up this morning, like looking at a whole new world? Jaron Hall was packing up his apartment, and now he's like, whoa, I might actually make the roster. This is unbelievable. But I'm calling it. I'm calling it right now. 2021 Bengals. That's what the Vikings are going to be next year. J.J. McCarthy is going to do the Joe Burrow impersonation coming off his knee injury. I think Burrow was an ACL. McCarthy coming back next year, leading the Vikings to a Super Bowl loss. That will be the 2025 story for the Vikings, like Burrow did. That's my hope, at least. But we got to jump ship. Good reaction, fellas. Reggie Wilson, Ron Johnson. I'm Sam Ekstrom. We'll have plenty more on this topic on the Minnesota Football Party and our Friday Roundtable right here at Locked On Sports Minnesota.